Well, is that surprising that Peyton Manning would be in demand as a color commentator? What is he going to do? We all thought he's going to own a team. Well, sometimes, even though they should, the owners don't sell. You think the people in Indianapolis wouldn't rather have Peyton Manning own that team than the sleaziest family on earth, the Irsays? Yeah, I think they might. But the Irsays got to want to sell. That's a big thing there, and they haven't, not since about 1972, and back in Baltimore. City they scorned that they shouldn't have, but there you go. Anyway, the point there, yeah. So Manning, a color commentator? Well, I know he's going to be a pace car driver on Sunday, and we'll talk about that. You know what other great NFL quarterback is going to be in Daytona on Saturday? Cheering on one of the drivers, you may have guessed this, Aaron Rodgers, who may one day become Mr. Danica Patrick. At least they're dating, and she'll be there. That's been the hot sports couple now. I guess we have, in baseball, it's Justin Verlander and Kate Upton. In football, it's Giselle and Tom Brady. NASCAR? Well, I know she's only got one race left, but yeah, this time the women shall lead. Danica Patrick and Aaron Rodgers. No word yet, though, if it'll be Manning and Rodgers throwing the football around on, that'd be great right there in the infield of Daytona if they were, got each other in here. That would be the photo op. That would be the photo op. Can you see that, And you'd have, Rodgers wearing Danica gear. You'd have, Manning wearing the pace car gear, throwing the ball back and forth. If NASCAR doesn't do that as a photo op, they have missed something big, and we now understand why NASCAR popularity has fallen. Hey everybody, I'm Marky Billson, your voice of choice for a new generation of Tri-City sports fans. The name of the program is Tri-City Sports Now, where we own the Tri-Cities, because I've got the hardest hitting opinions, but also the best guests in the market. Hey, I want you to tune in for me, but I'm going to talk to interesting people as well. Give you an example. In just a few minutes, Larry Hunter, head basketball coach of the Western Carolina Catamounts. They're at about 500, but 7-2 at home, and that's where ETSU heads tomorrow to take on the surprising Catamounts. I think that, and I think Hunter, who won his 700th game of the year of his career, it'd be a good feat if he won 700 in 1 year. I think that Western would be ranked a little bit higher if that was the case. I also think that there might be an internal investigation. How do you play all these games, But there would be a circumstance where there is going to be a circumstance where Larry Hunter joins me in just a few minutes talking about tomorrow's game. Right after that, Alex Doherty of OnTheForecheck.com. He comes in talking about the Predators. What about this Predators draft choice that is just lighting the lamp up for Finland? We're going to talk about that, as well as some really exciting games that the Predators have played in recent times. And yes, why might Mike Fisher be coming back? Well, this was hockey's couple, not so much anymore. Yeah, hockey players, they've got a reputation, but I guess, Alyssa Milano, Luke Robitaille, that fell through. I guess Mike Crumry and Hillary Duff, that fell through. And now, oh dear, Mike Fisher and Carrie Underwood, looks like it's a thing of the past. We'll be talking about that. And then in the next hour, I will also be talking to our old friend, allfortennessee.com, Caleb Calhoun, because he has got some takes on the Chris Wenke hiring, and I want to know, hey, is this as sleazy of a move as I think it might be? Where you tell, the previous running backs coach, oh, sure, you're the best recruiter. We'll keep you around then, and then we're going to fire you and bring in Wenke. That was the plan all along. So I'll ask about that as well. But I want to begin a story that had a lot of people buzzing about, came out earlier in the week. And Dennis Dodd reporting that college football attendance was down. Down, that's right. So obviously, the naysayers came out and, aha! The death of football is underway. Yes, white males boycotting the NFL actually didn't matriculate to the college ranks, like we were heard before. Oh, maybe Paul Stanton had it right. And to that I say, hold on, wait a second here. Now, it's true last year college football suffered through a 3% drop in attendance. That's true. It also should be mentioned, and they say this is the biggest drop that they've had since 1983. Well, if they had a bigger drop in 1983, it looks like college football actually increased in popularity right after that. And so we're looking, of course, that was when the CFA, College Football Alliance, and after 83, they revolutionized the way that college football was televised. If you're not of the era before that, you could only be on TV so many times in college football. So, Tennessee, you could only be on TV 3 times. Admittedly, ESPN was in its infancy and so on, and they were just, really, 84 is when ESPN started broadcasting college football, and that boom came about. TBS did the same. There had been a bowl game on ESPN before, but it was still, very much in its infancy. A lot of times the bowl games were syndicated. Raycom or Jefferson Pilot, they went all over. But we look at why college football attendance is down. Let's just focus right now on the SEC. Case in point, 2016, the Vols, 1 point, they're 5-0, ranked number 9 in the country. 9-4, good record. They average 101,000 fans a game, just shy of it, but 101,000 fans a game for all intents and purposes. Last year, 4-8 year, Vols, they draw less than 96,000 a game. Horrors! I was talking about how terrible the Vanderbilt attendance was. It was 85,000. That's not bad! And similarly, Arkansas, they fell from 7-5 to 4-8. They had a huge attendance loss. They dropped by 6,000 fans a game. So did Ole Miss. And remember, Ole Miss this year came in. You're going to go on probation. You're not going to be as good as you thought you were last year. I realized that Ole Miss suffered a disappointing 2016 season. Chad Kelly got hurt. Shea Patterson, though, came in, became a star, wound up going to Michigan, of course, in the offseason. But, Ole Miss was nationally ranked at the start of the 2016 season, and they were basically picked to be the worst team in the SEC going in. So you're not going to sell a lot of season tickets or have a whole lot of buzz coming into your year. It's natural that your attendance would drop. Now, let's look at the flip side here. South Carolina, what did they do? They went to 6-6 to 8-4, just regular season records here. You want to include the bowls? Okay, they went from 6-7 to 9-4. They had an increase nearly 2,000 fans a game at Williams-Brice Stadium. Stands to reason they would. Team improved. Kentucky, okay, they went 7-6 for the second straight year, but you know what? There was a lot more buzz around Kentucky football. I remember listening to Chuck Oliver right here on 1420 NBC Sports Radio Tri-Cities. He was talking about Kentucky winning the SEC East. When you have that buzz, it'll create an attendance gain. Even Vanderbilt had a slight attendance gain. How could that be? They went from 6-6 to 5-7 in the regular season. They didn't have Tennessee come into Nashville this past year. True. However, you know what they did have? They had Alabama come in, and they started 3-0. So there was a positive buzz, positive vibe. It was just a slight attendance gain. But yeah, the Commodores drew more fans than they did in 2016. And just going along that route, what's the team that had the biggest the increase in attendance this past year? It was Purdue. Purdue, who had a high-scoring offense, new coach, first winning record in 6 years. They drew 13,000 more fans a game in 2017 than they did in 16. Well, that goes to reason, doesn't it? Come on, think about this. ACC, they suffered through a huge, they lost about 4,500 fans a game. Where did it all come from? Well, I'm looking at the attendance figures. In 16, Pitt, they host Penn State. They go to a bowl game in the first for the 9th straight year. This past year, they go 5-7. First losing season in a decade. They lose 10,000 fans. Panthers fans can be fickle. I know. I used to be their sideline reporter. Same thing, Florida State. Florida State, I mean, if they're not number 1, something's wrong in Tallahassee, right? They went 7-6 last year, real mediocre. 6-6, I guess, if you just include. Was it 6-6 with the bowl? Yeah, 6-6 if you don't include the bowl. So Florida State had this awful season by their standards, and so they lost 6,000 fans a game. Goes to reason, doesn't it? It's kind of surprised. Even Duke, Georgia Tech, they lost. Virginia. But the idea was those teams seemed to be down coming into the year. And, Georgia Tech had a real lousy 2016. So, and if you see, Clemson, they draw 80,000 fans a game. They're not going to draw significantly more than 80,000 a game. That's what their stadium holds. Miami didn't have that big of an attendance game. Virginia Tech, where would you put the extra fans? They drew basically what they drew in 2016. So some programs lost when they were either coming off of bad years or had bad years themselves in the ACC. This is why attendance came down. Now, I think college football does have a little bit of a worry because the last 10 years, the attendance has pretty much steadily fallen. They're drawing 5,000 fans less than they did 10 years ago, average in the FBS. And some are suggesting ticket prices, the labor of going to a game. We're talking not ETSU or Tusculum here. We're talking, in this case, say Tennessee, Virginia Tech. That's a couple of hours drive. Who knows what the weather's going to be, fighting through traffic, fighting through all that, just to be there. And I get that. For that matter, technology. Some people say technology is turning fans off because, after all, you sit in your easy chair, you got your iPhone there, you can, watch one game on the tube and another on your iPhone, maybe listen to another on the radio. And you've got all that going on that you can enjoy. You can't quite do that, but the difference, I would say, is that, most stadiums now have Wi-Fi, so you can certainly use your iPhone and keep track. I realize college football fantasy isn't as big as pro football fantasy, but you can keep track of, say, scores of other games. What else is going on. Even listen to a game, perhaps. No, what the reason, you're looking at average attendance here, okay? Average attendance. In the last 10 years, think about this. Think who the Sun Belt has taken on. Appalachian State, Georgia State, Coastal Carolina. These used to be FCS schools, Division I AA in the old days. Now it's FBS schools. I loved Mike Leach talking about, we got to change the initials all the time. Why do we need to do that? And so you look at it in Appalachian State, Mountaineers drew 35,000 fans a couple of years ago for their game against Miami. That's all it would hold. Well, that's going to bring down an average attendance of 42,000 in college football, isn't it? Of course it will. The attendance figures will also factor in bowl games, which more and more people are finding to be obsolete. Certainly I do. Some might even say attendance figures in general are obsolete. It's TV ratings. It's TV ads sold. So much of revenue in college football, sports in general, major sports, comes from TV. What would result in a real loss of interest, in my opinion, I've said this many times, of college football, is if the college football playoff was expanded and when the bowl games, pretty much I think that sooner or later they're going to wither away and die. Go all the way of the bluebonnet, When 9-3 teams finishing 8th, or heaven forbid 8-4 teams finishing 16th, are invited to the Derby to play for a national championship, then the element of the must-win regular season game, like let's say Tennessee, Florida was very early on in the season back 20 years ago, that was a de facto playoff game, played third week of the year. Primetime TV, whole nation was watching. You don't have that anymore if you expand the college football playoff. College football becomes college basketball then, which frankly is an afterthought in November, despite a great deal of out-of-conference matchups. Games will be transferred to on-campus sites, and that sounds fun. Sounds like a real home field advantage, right? But then let's remember this. In a week, it's not very easy to sell 100,000 seats. Remember when ETSU had a playoff game back in the 90s against Villanova, their first ever? They can only draw 47,000 fans, or excuse me, 4,700 fans. That's all they drew in. 4,700 fans to the mini dome. The mini dome held 12,000. Actually had 13,000 in there for Marshall. So before you think that the attendance drop is going to be the death of football, which we hear all the time, just think again. Now the future, yeah, I think that new stadiums must be built with retractable roofs for fan comfort. I think that you need to get a smear campaign going against rowdy fan behavior instead of romanticizing the Philly fans.